My name is Alyson Griffin, and I am the Global Vice President of Marketing at Intel. I'm super excited to talk a little bit today about the power of storytelling. But before we get into that, I want to let you know what's been going on in Intel. We're actually reimagining our overall brand strategy right now. And I joined the company in 2016, yes, from 17 years at Hewlett-Packard. And my role in part at that time was to expand the meaning of our very powerful brand. We don't have an awareness problem anywhere in the world. Pretty much everybody knows Intel Inside. I'm sure everybody here does. And that we're a powerful chip in the world's most powerful compute engines. And if you don't know that, you at least know this. Yes, all right. But the thing is, our business and our industry and our partners are changing. Intel needed to grow beyond the PC and to embrace B2B technologies and B2B industries. So in other words, we don't have an awareness problem, but we have a relevance problem. So while we're expanding into innovations that are super technical and really interesting, like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, 5G, drones, autonomous driving, all of these areas are important and really big drivers for Intel's growth and technologies, but they're completely unknown to some really key target audiences for us. So that's a problem, but it was a problem I'm super excited to solve. So the first thing I did was look at our overall marketing strategy and got some insights from the decades and billions of dollars that Intel had spent in the B2C marketing arena. So we're really good at capturing mass market attention. We had television spots with Jim Parsons. We did really amazing stunts like opening up the Winter Olympics with an amazing drone show. But how do we reach this new target, this B2B business solution focused guy or gal who doesn't even know that they should think about Intel for technology solutions in the B2B space? How do we find them? How do we connect with them? So in order to capture their hearts and minds, we had to shift our perspective. We had to think more B2C inspired, but create a human connection with B2B businesses. So I partnered really closely with our Insights organization, something I'm sure all of you in this room know how important that is. And we did a lot of research on persona work on who are these new people that were largely unknown to us, and they didn't know us, we didn't know them, etc. What do they care about? From there, we had to strategize about how to entice them to come along with us in a memorable way that could feel authentic and meaningful to them. We also needed to choose the right places and the right partners that were going to attract the right kind of influencers to our story. And we needed to ensure that our approach went beyond in-person events and made memorable connections that we could then scale in the digital and social world. So if that sounds like a B2C marketing strategy, it's because it is. So let me share with you a few examples today about how Intel is approaching this new, really important shift for us and for our brand, and what we're doing to try to change and capture the hearts and minds of B2B storytellers and solution providers. Sometimes what starts out as a typical business opportunity can turn into something bigger with a lot of marketing impact if you pay attention to what the sales guys are communicating to you. So take the Smithsonian Museum. They contacted us to do a typical project, things that people call us all the time for, and that was they needed compute power. They had a really important project to digitize the 1.5 million artifacts that are underground in Washington, D.C. Super techie process, super heavy compute power because of all the intricacies about those artifacts and the care that needed to go with them. So during that process and that project took a few months, we were talking to them, the sales guys, talking to them, getting to know them and understanding their business problems overall versus just talking about the one little project that they originally contacted us to engage in. And we found Two things that were super interesting to me as a marketer. One, they were very passionate about their community-based school outreach programs. So I don't know about any of you, but in the 80s, I was in high school and I was in California and flew to Washington, D.C. and took a trip to tour the Smithsonian Museum. So they still do that today. It's really important to them, and how they think about that program and the scaling and the expansion is part of their overall business strategy. So we paid attention to that. The second interesting business problem they had is they wanted to get 1 billion people through their museum. And that's really difficult to do in a physical space. So when the field was telling me about these just offhanded side conversations and some business problems that they had, we sat in a room at Intel and strategized, how could we help them beyond just this project of digitizing their artifacts and really scale some solutions? And if we were going to do that, do some extra work with them, could the brand team take advantage of that and help tell a compelling story? So we immediately thought virtual reality. Advanced virtual reality was going to be the key to efficiently and effectively go capture digital content from the museum exhibitions. And it was also going to allow the Smithsonian to free their collection from time and space constraints. It was going to make that collection infinitely accessible. Take a look.
Technology is changing art.
Sansar is a social VR platform. In Sansar, people from around the world can come and see this art together, even though we might be on opposite sides of the globe.
I can, in my office, talk to someone all the way across the world and literally point to things, activate objects in the galleries. It's a whole new world.
Intel helps creators by building the underlying tech that enables all this stuff to happen. The Core i9 in particular has enabled us to iterate at a clip that we previously could not. When people have these more powerful CPUs, you get more performance, you can do more, you build faster.
There are so many amazing things technology can do for the art world that we can't do all by ourselves.
VR allows the same museum to be what museums would be if they had unlimited budgets, if they weren't constrained by the bounds of a single building. They can become infinitely accessible.
So now you had this great piece of storytelling content, but the question became, could we extend it further? So I told you we had a relevance problem in B2B vertical industries that people didn't know we could help businesses. And one of those vertical industries was the business of education. So since we developed this new approach to art class where you could be anywhere, and like you saw the woman at the Smithsonian say she could activate objects, and basically she was a docent in doing art classes virtually, we're like, okay, well, we have that, and we want to help the Smithsonian get that in the hands of teachers and students all over the country and even around the world. But why stop there? Intel, maybe the world's best kept secret, had a ton of technologies and solutions for the education market that we already had in development. And we thought, what if we married these things together? We had classes to teach students how to code by programming drones, and we had VR headsets that were teaching science classes like dissecting a frog and teaching students about the universe by flying through the space and passing all the planets. We also had VR using chemistry classes and AI technology that was helping personalized learning. So enter the Intel Tech Learning Lab. It was a revolutionary mobile classroom, and we took some of the most innovative educational technology solutions to schools, many of which were in underserved markets across the country, and we took it to museums as well across the US. So take a look.
Intel takes on a lot of really big challenges in the world, and education is one of those.
Intel is kicking off a nationwide technology tour to schools and museums all across the United States to show the power of technology.
For our students, what it means is that they're engaging in 21st century experiences that don't live within the four walls of our school currently.
With the power of Intel technology, we're able to show artificial intelligence and drones and coding and engineering and virtual reality.
We're showing a museum experience inside of virtual reality, so taking the students to the museum in that space.
It's all about hands-on learning and using technology to enable students to do all of that.
It's really awesome to have an opportunity to do this in school.
We really want to change the way students are experiencing learning. Technology is the tool to actually help the learning happen.
I'm most excited about the kids. Their reaction to the technology is really incredible.
Isn't it more interesting to learn engineering standing on the Great Wall of China rather than just reading about it in a book?
The only way to get a student to think about future is to give them future technology, to give them something that's capable of pushing the envelope further.
When we look at the technology that Intel brings, it's not about the school of the future. It's about the school for the future.
So as you can see, we didn't talk about the technology for technology's sake. We talked about the why and the how we were changing student learning outcomes. It enabled Intel to tell more than just one story around an art class for the Smithsonian. We were able to expand a larger holistic story around the power and the impact of our technology in a new B2B vertical space, education. By the way, it was amazing to see those kids interacting with that technology. I have 2 boys, and I'm so excited about where education is headed. If any of you have kids or grandkids or anything, I think the future is pretty cool for them. Okay, so shifting gears from the education market to a really important vertical industry that's exciting and another best-kept secret for Intel solutions, and that's retail. In the retail segment, there's a really big trade show called NRF, and we go every year. It's in the Jacob Javits Center. Many of you have probably had the craziness of activating there. It's in January in New York, and we go every year. And we know that there's a big challenge at that show. It's really big. So 800 brands, 35,000 attendees. And we want to keep coming across as fresh and innovative and true to our brand and who we are. And we also needed to ensure that trade show after trade show, we're capturing the investment properly. Should we still go there? Are we wasting time and money? Is it worth it? So we had 5 areas of concern that we were thinking about that this show had to prove its value. One was share of voice in the press. Another was generating buzz at the show among attendees. A third was driving traffic to our booth. A fourth was getting those all-important opt-ins for the follow-up lead nurturing. And I'm sure all of you in this room can relate to that. The 5th one might be a little different for us, but Intel is never by itself at any trade show. Of course, we have our own booth presence, but we're also in dozens of our partner booths with our logo, big and proud, and nobody really understands what that is or how does that solution over there connect to that partner solution over there. And we're really missing out, not taking advantage of what we could be doing to get more traction for our solutions as it relates to this vertical industry. So, also, as part of Intel's philanthropic initiative, NRF itself always has a really big push for a specific charity. It's the Retail Orphan Foundation. And so we participate in that as well. So there's like a community service philanthropic piece to that engagement too. So we knew we didn't want to just tell a story about our technology in the retail space. We've done that before. It's a story that wasn't that inspiring and had been told. We knew that we wanted to showcase real solutions and inspiring activations that our partners were also a part with us in the industry bringing to life. So to do this, our strategy was to capture the audience's attention by not only telling them about the retail solutions that we had, but showing them. So what better way to do that than by engaging with something we knew every single person would have, their phone. To do this, we partnered with a really innovative company called BlockV, and we released butterflies, thousands of butterflies, not only in the Jacob Javits Center, but all around New York City. Through a downloadable app at the time, the technology has evolved to a viewable website. We encouraged and incentivized attendees to catch butterflies through their phone as a strategy to break through the noise and capture their attention. So take a look.
Yesterday we had the launch of the first digital autonomous life forms in PricewaterhouseCoopers offices in Uptown. That was amazing.
Now it's time to get rid of the game and gamify the world. So we've made hundreds of digital butterflies and we're releasing them into the universe.
We had butterflies flying all over Manhattan, carrying gifts from Intel.
We have been absolutely flooded with interest. I've never seen such excitement.
So we're here at NRF, launching for the first time this digital treasure hunt.
It's a massive show. There's so much here.
Participants are sent out into the conference floor. They then get these digital objects, they come back to our booth, and they redeem them for actual tangible prizes.
This represents the evolution of advertising from just messages to actual digital objects. Now brands can provide consumers a way to really engage with their brand assets through digital objects.
NRF is truly a watershed moment for BlockV. We are seeing absolute incredible excitement, people coming from all walks of life in the retail community and saying, this is not just an efficiency, this is something that's going to fundamentally transform how retail is done. What we're doing here today is historic.
That was so fun for us to activate, and by doing that stunt, we broke through the noise and authentically engaged our target audience and actually had them searching all around the Javits Center for our brand and for our story and our connected tissue about the solutions that we were providing in the retail industry. So remember those 5 concerns I told you about? Share of voice, generating buzz, driving traffic to our booth, getting opt-ins, and connecting a story around solutions for the industry. Well, check, 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 check. It's awesome. And this is really what the power of storytelling is all about. The ability to tell an impactful story while also driving the business forward. The reason it works so well is because storytelling is in our DNA. All of us are conditioned to the communication and the storytelling and making personal relationships since the beginning of time. The challenge is that as we continue to transform in this overly automated and digitally optimized world, making the human connection has become the new premium. So we as brand leaders, we know that we can no longer just rely on historic brand relevance or catchy taglines or even splashy celebrity endorsements in order to make a connection with our brand. Our customers want more. They expect a brand to not only show value, but to share values. And that is where storytelling becomes the currency for a really successful brand marketing strategy. I've been a brand marketer for over 2 decades, and at Intel, and as we talked about, HP and in the PR world. And I've developed my own little professional philosophy, which I sum up as my 3 hard and fast rules to brand storytelling. Let's talk about some of those now. Rule number 1 is think B2C when strategizing for B2B. As we've just discussed, this has been a career mantra of mine, and makes that rule so simple is that at the end of the day, we're all just people. B2B targets are humans and consumers and people. And that debate between B2C tactics versus B2B marketing tactics, I think is just done. What really matters is if you know who your target is and what they care about and what their pain points are, you can tell a really compelling story that matters to them. Number 2, it is storytelling, not story selling. In this room, we represent some of the biggest, most important global brands in the world. And sometimes you might share my frustration that our business unit counterparts push us to talk about their product baby. They're so enamored with what they've just created. And it is really important. In my world, it's speeds and feeds in the tech industry. But we as marketers know that it's less about the what and more about the why that differentiates us. Take, for example, a commercial for a store in Lima, Peru from 2014. It's basically about a dad and a doorbell, but it has made such an emotional connection and impact on me that it has stuck with me all this time. I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to warn you, it's a little bit of a tearjerker. Take a look. I know. Me too, and I have to talk now. Oh my gosh. What's striking to me about this piece of storytelling is the brand didn't stop at knowing who their target was, and they didn't focus on what they were selling. They dug deep into the why anybody would pick up a hammer in the first place. Storytelling versus story selling means that a brand is being authentic and transparent about what it stands for, and that they're inherently true to what they are trying to reach and the people they're trying to reach. Number 3, the Chris Griffin filter. Okay, that's a weird one. My husband is Chris Griffin. He and I have been together for nearly 30 years, and for 27 of those years, he's been a San Francisco juvenile probation officer. And for almost all of that time, I've been in high-tech Silicon Valley marketing. Our careers are polar opposites. And Chris is not very techie. I mean, you know, he's moderately so. As I said earlier, sometimes our business counterparts push us marketing folks to talk about the language of speeds and feeds. But the truth is, I believe that if we are to resonate with the everyday consumer, you have to tell a story in a way that answers the why, but that is digestible and relatable. So that's how I use Chris. He's my litmus test to test how stories might be perceived by the masses or people outside the tech industry. if he can understand the connection I'm trying to make to a piece of Intel silicon, but through the story lens of cars that can drive themselves, well then that validates that the story is a winner because it can resonate beyond just a few narrow tech people. So a good example of this is a program that I created for Intel called Snotbot. I did it in collaboration with Parlay for the Oceans and a team of marine biologists. And we showcased how Intel's AI technology and drone technology were changing the face of whale research. Take a look.
We're really at the beginning of this whole new era of whale research. In the past, I collect the data, I go back home, and I spent months sorting through it. The fact that Intel's giving us the opportunity through AI to review the data streams as they're coming in with the computing power to match and compare images means that I can be much more efficient in the field.
We really believe that drone and artificial intelligence technology together can make it possible to both identify the whales and give them a health score, which gives us a good idea of the health of the whale and, by extension, the ocean. The algorithms that we use can look at an image of the fluke or the tail to identify the whale. It can pick up on patterns that we can't even see in terms of the shape of the fluke, the color of the fluke, the speckled patterns on the fluke. And that's really useful. It may take years for a human to figure out what features matter, but for a good machine learning or artificial intelligence algorithm, that can be done in seconds.
The fact that I can be standing half a mile off from a group of whales, listening to them, measuring them, collecting biological data, processing that data with Intel, I mean, it's making all of this incredibly cost-effective.
The health of that water is key to human health, and whales are a great barometer to the health of the ocean. And so by studying them, we get a good sense of how we're all doing.
So for us at Intel, we could have easily told a technology story. So go with me here. The benefits of Movidius, Xeon, artificial intelligence. I just don't think that kind of story would have scaled very far. So, but by telling a compelling story about how artificial intelligence and drones are actually empowering researchers to understand the health of our oceans, that's a story that's both authentic to our brand, but also allows us to put our products in the context of the why, not just the what. Finally, before we end today, I want to stop and talk about the responsibility that each one of us has as marketers. We are representing the biggest and most important brands in the world in this room. And what we do is more than just identifying a target audience and selling a product to them. We have the power to tell stories. We have the power to evoke emotions that can change people's minds, their attitudes, their perceptions. We get to sit in rooms and sit at whiteboards and dream up infinite possibilities. We get to sit at the forefront of the future, and we can dream up what the world thinks and believes for tomorrow. So at the end of the day, though, dare I say it, it's just marketing, something that being married to a probation officer taught me early on. Let that fact free you. You can take these risks. You can go and try new kind of storytelling techniques to really get at the why your product matters and really create an emotional connection with the people that you're trying to relate to. We do all this by telling stories that don't just define, but differentiate. I challenge you to not only color outside the lines, but to skywrite. Challenge the status quo and think B2C when you're strategizing for B2B. Push the boundaries with your business unit counterparts to not story sell, but to story tell. Find your filter, mine is my husband, that validates your brand beyond just a narrow audience and see if you can get a bigger extension beyond a product SKU. And above all, share authentic stories about your brand's history, your challenges, your successes, your unique value propositions, because you can create a purpose and a culture tied to your target audience that they want to be a part of. I believe that when you're in sync with your target through really great storytelling, they don't become just customers. They become your community. And that community is loyal to the story that only your brand can tell. Thank you.